Let's talk about something deceptively simple. 5 minutes, just 5. In a world obsessed with massive productivity hacks and hours-long routines, it's easy to overlook the power of starting small. But here's the truth. If a task takes less than 5 minutes, do it immediately. That's it. That's the rule, and it's a game changer. Now, you might be thinking, 5 minutes, that's nothing. But that's exactly why it works. We often get overwhelmed by the size of everything we have to do. Our to-do lists look like novels, and every time we look at them, we're already tired. So instead of doing something, we end up doing nothing. That's procrastination in disguise. It doesn't always look like laziness. Sometimes it looks like planning or waiting for the perfect time, or overthinking a small task until it becomes a big one. But when you apply the 5-minute rule, you cut through all that noise. You see a dish in the sink. Wash it. Takes less than 5 minutes. An email needs a quick response. Answer it. That phone call you've been avoiding. If it'll take under 5 minutes, dial the number. The moment you start seeing these tiny tasks not as interruptions but as momentum builders, your entire approach to productivity changes. And I mean that. Because what this rule really does is force you to take action. Right now. Not later. Not when you feel like it. Not when your schedule clears up. Now. And something shifts when you do that. You're no longer negotiating with yourself about whether you feel like doing the thing. You just do it. And in doing it, you take control of your energy instead of letting your energy control you. That's powerful. That's how you start rewiring your behavior from avoidance to action, from delay to execution. The 5-minute rule also cuts down the clutter. Not just physical clutter, but mental clutter. How often do we carry small tasks in our minds all day long? I need to send that file. I should text them back. I really should throw that expired milk out of the fridge. These things seem small, but they take up space. They weigh us down, and the longer we carry them, the heavier they feel. But when we take 5 minutes to just do them, we free up that mental bandwidth for what really matters. I've met people who feel constantly busy but rarely productive. And you know why? Because they're carrying around 24 little things they could have knocked out in minutes. But they didn't. Not because they couldn't, but because they never decided to start. And that's what the 5-minute rule forces, the start. It's the permission to stop waiting and start doing. And let me tell you something. That start is everything. I remember telling someone this rule, and they laughed. 5 minutes won't change my life, they said. And I told them no, 5 minutes won't change your life. But using 5 minutes well, again and again, absolutely will. Because it builds trust with yourself. You become someone who acts, someone who handles things, someone who doesn't delay the inevitable. And when you become that kind of person, 5 minutes isn't just time. It's identity. That's what this is really about. So the next time you find yourself putting something off, ask one simple question. Will it take less than 5 minutes? If the answer is yes, then don't wait. Do it right now. That's where the shift begins. You know what's wild? The hardest part of getting anything done usually isn't the doing. It's the starting. We sit there staring at the task, the project, the email, the mess, and we build it up in our minds like it's Mount Everest. But 9 times out of 10, the moment we take that first step, just start, we realize, oh, this isn't so bad. And that's where the 5-minute rule comes in and does something powerful. It breaks through the mental resistance. It forces a start, and starting is everything. There's something in human psychology, a phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, that explains why starting is so powerful. It basically says that once you start something, your brain holds onto it. It wants to finish it. It keeps nudging you. That's why unfinished tasks keep popping into your mind even when you're doing something else. But here's the twist. The opposite is also true. If you never start, your brain gives you all the permission in the world to keep avoiding it. That's why people can delay important things for weeks, months, even years, because the longer you wait to start, the more intimidating it feels. Now, think about what happens when you apply the 5-minute rule to this. You tell yourself, I'm not doing the whole task, I'm just starting. Just 5 minutes, that's it, no pressure. You don't have to finish the entire thing. You're just getting the ball rolling. But once you're in motion, something shifts. Momentum kicks in. You're in it. And finishing starts to feel way more possible. That's the real magic. Because you're not relying on motivation anymore. You're leaning into movement. And movement beats motivation every single time. People always talk about motivation like it's some magic lightning bolt that hits you when the stars align. But most days, you're not going to wake up buzzing with motivation. That's normal. That's human. So if you wait until you feel like it, you're going to be waiting a long time. But when you commit to just starting for 5 minutes, you bypass that whole emotional tug-of-war. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And instead say, I'll do it for 5. And 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, and before you know it, you've actually done the thing you were avoiding all day. I've seen this happen over and over again. People tell me they don't have time, they're too tired, they're not in the right mindset, and I get it. Life is busy, but you don't need a perfect mindset to start. You just need 5 minutes. You need that one small push to cross the starting line, because once you're in motion, everything changes. The task goes from overwhelming to manageable. Your confidence goes up, your focus sharpens, and your energy, which felt drained before, starts to build again. That's the beauty of action. It generates its own fuel. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain today. You just need to lace up your shoes and take the first few steps. And that's what the 5-minute rule gives you. It gives you the power to begin. And when you begin, your brain gets involved. It says, we're doing this now. That little shift, that tiny moment of action, it can turn a wasted hour into a productive one, a scattered day into a focused one, and a defeated mindset into a winning one. So the next time your mind tells you it's too much, that it can wait, that you're not ready, don't argue. Don't debate, just say, I'm starting just for 5 minutes, and let the momentum do the rest. Let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when we think about productivity. Wins, not the big, flashy ones, but the small, almost invisible ones. The ones that happen in 5 minutes. When you knock out a tiny task, clear out an email, organize a corner of your space, or make that one call you've been putting off, something powerful happens in your brain. You get a micro win, and micro wins are the building blocks of momentum. See, most people think productivity is about grinding for hours and hours, staying up late, checking off huge goals. But the truth is, real productivity starts with how you manage your energy and how you build your confidence, and nothing boosts your confidence like doing what you said you would do, even if it's small. Especially if it's small, because small wins are like deposits in your mental bank account. Every time you do something, even if it only takes a minute, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who follows through. Someone who gets it done, and there's neuroscience behind this. When you complete a task, your brain releases dopamine, that feel-good chemical that drives motivation and reward. It's like a little internal celebration. And guess what? That dopamine hit doesn't care how big the task was. It just cares that you finished it. That's why even something as simple as making your bed or clearing out a notification gives you a sense of satisfaction. That's why knocking out a 5-minute task can sometimes feel better than working for an hour on something that still isn't finished, because completion creates clarity, and clarity breeds confidence. Now here's the trick most people miss. You don't have to wait for motivation to feel that momentum. You can create it. You build it by stacking small wins, one after another. You start the day by doing something productive that takes less than 5 minutes. That win gives you a little rush, so you take that energy and use it for the next thing. Another win, another hit of progress, and before you know it, you've gone from "I don't feel like doing anything" to "look at everything I've done." That's the shift. That's what gets you out of a slump and into a groove, and let me tell you, it's addictive. Once you start stacking those wins, your mind starts searching for more of them. It looks around and says, "What else can I knock out in 5 minutes?" Suddenly, that messy shelf you've been avoiding becomes an easy win. That email you've been dreading becomes a 2-minute reply. That quick walk becomes a check mark on your habit list. You're no longer reacting to your day. You're creating it, 5 minutes at a time. I've watched people turn their entire week around with just one productive 5-minute decision. Because it's not just about the task, it's about what that task represents. It's proof. Proof that you're capable. Proof that you're making progress. Proof that you're in control. And when your mind sees that proof, it becomes easier to believe that bigger wins are possible. You don't have to climb the whole ladder in one leap. You just need to take the first step, then the second, then the third, and it all starts with that first small victory. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're falling behind, don't try to fix your whole life in one sitting. Just focus on your next micro win. Do something that takes less than 5 minutes. Build the momentum and keep stacking those wins, because the smallest step forward is always better than standing still. Let's take a second to talk about time. Not just how we spend it, but how we think about it. Because here's the thing, productivity isn't just about action, it's about perception. It's about the way we mentally frame time and effort. And a big reason so many people get stuck, delay tasks, or fall into cycles of procrastination is because they overestimate how long something will take. They misjudge the weight of a small task and turn it into a mountain in their minds. That's why the 5-minute rule is such a powerful tool, not just for managing tasks, but for managing perception. Most of us don't actually have a time problem, we have a decision problem. We hesitate, we analyze, we delay, not because we don't have time, but because we think a task is going to take more out of us than it actually will. And let's be real, how many times have you put off something for days or weeks, only to finally do it and realize it took, 2 or 3 minutes? I know you've been there, we all have, but that's exactly what the 5-minute rule interrupts. It breaks that loop by forcing us to ask one simple question: does this really take more than 5 minutes? And most of the time, the answer is no. When you use that 5-minute filter, it shifts how your brain processes a task. It changes the narrative. Instead of telling yourself, "Ugh, I've got to deal with that thing," your brain goes, "Hold up, it's just 5 minutes." Suddenly, what felt like a big, annoying chore becomes bite-sized. It becomes manageable, and manageable means doable. That's when you stop putting things off and start knocking them out. And let me tell you, the compound effect of that shift is massive. Because now, instead of dragging 10 tiny tasks from one day to the next, you're making faster decisions, taking quicker actions, and clearing space, mentally and physically. It's like cleaning out a drawer in your brain. You make space for the stuff that actually matters, and the more you do it, the sharper your decision making becomes. You stop hesitating, you stop overthinking, you just do. That's where confidence grows. Because when you're someone who acts instead of delays, you start trusting yourself more. You start realizing you don't need to wait for the perfect mood or the perfect timing. You don't need to prep for 20 minutes to handle something that takes 4. And when you free yourself from that hesitation, you unlock a level of personal power that changes everything. I had a conversation with someone the other day who told me they were drowning in little things. Emails, receipts, texts, tiny errands, just a mess of tasks that were constantly hanging over their head. I said, give me an hour, we'll go through your list, and we're not thinking, we're just applying the 5-minute rule, and guess what? Over half of it was gone in that hour, just gone, because the weight of their to-do list wasn't about the tasks. It was about how long they thought each one would take. Change the perception, and you change the pressure. And this isn't just about getting more done, it's about getting out of your own way. It's about cutting through the noise in your head so you can move, because you're not stuck. You're just stalled, and a stalled car doesn't need a new engine. It just needs a push. That 5-minute decision, that's your push. That's what gets the wheels turning again. So the next time you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or like everything's too much, don't ask if you have time. Ask if it'll take 5 minutes. If it will, stop thinking and start doing. One of the reasons I love the 5-minute rule so much is because it's not just a mindset shift. It's insanely practical. This isn't just some abstract idea to inspire you in the moment. It's something you can literally start using the second you leave this room. Right there in the middle of your daily life. That's where it works best, because it's not about theory. It's about action. And the beauty is, once you get the hang of spotting those 5-minute tasks, you realize they're everywhere. Take your phone, for example. You probably pick it up more times than you can count each day. Now imagine if just a couple of those moments were used to knock out something quick. A follow-up text, deleting junk emails, setting a calendar reminder, confirming a meeting. That's not extra time you have to carve out. That's time you already have. It's just being redirected with intention. And the return you get from those small decisions, it adds up fast. Or think about the beginning of your day. Most people start their mornings in chaos or autopilot. But what if you gave yourself 5 intentional minutes right at the start? 5 minutes to tidy your space, plan your top priorities, or even just breathe and set your mindset. That tiny investment at the beginning of the day can shift the tone for everything that comes after it. It's not about doing more, it's about doing the right little things that free up space for the big ones. And don't sleep on your environment either. Productivity isn't just mental, it's physical. Your surroundings are sending you signals all the time. That pile of unopened mail, that messy desk, those small messes silently scream unfinished. But you don't have to deep clean your whole house. Just take 5 minutes, file a few papers, wipe the counter, toss what doesn't belong. Each one of those actions is a 5-minute investment that gives you back mental clarity. And when your physical space is clearer, your thinking becomes sharper. You reduce friction, and friction is the enemy of focus. You can also use the 5-minute rule to get ahead in your work. Instead of staring at a blank screen waiting for inspiration, say, I'll write for 5 minutes. Instead of avoiding that report, say, I'll just open the file and outline one point. That's it. No pressure to finish, just get in, because once you're in, you're already past the hardest part. There's also a digital side to this. Set a 5-minute timer and clear your desktop. Unsubscribe from useless emails. Organize your downloads folder. These things seem so small, but they create noise and distraction every single day. When you clean them up little by little, you're actually optimizing your workflow without even realizing it. And it doesn't stop at your work or your house. Relationships, too. Think about how many people you care about but never reach out to because life gets too busy. Send a quick check-in message. Comment on something they posted. Make that short call. 5 minutes might not seem like much, but it means something to the person on the other side. That kind of intention builds connection, and connection builds a life that feels full, not just productive. This is what the 5-minute rule does. It finds all the places where we've let life pile up, and it says, start here. You don't need more hours. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need 5 minutes of action, over and over again, and suddenly you've got momentum in areas you didn't even realize were stuck. So when you step into your day and look around at all the little things calling for your attention, don't overthink them. Don't put them off. If it takes 5 minutes or less, just handle it. Because in those moments, you're not just being productive, you're taking control. The last thing I want to say about the 5-minute rule is maybe the most important, because this is where it becomes more than a productivity tool. This is where it becomes a lifestyle, a mindset, a way of showing up in the world. See, when you commit to using 5 minutes intentionally, over and over again, you start creating something much bigger than just progress on a to-do list. You start shaping your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes action, someone who doesn't need to feel motivated or wait for perfect conditions. You just move, and what happens when you begin to trust yourself like that? Everything changes, because now it's not just about knocking out quick tasks. It's about building habits, building discipline, building the kind of consistency that separates the people who wish for results from the people who create results. That's the real win here. That's where the compound effect kicks in and starts to multiply. Every time you take 5 minutes to do something productive, you're planting a seed. You're creating a pattern that says, I don't need a whole hour. I don't need to wait for a new week. I've got 5 minutes, and that's enough to move forward. You repeat that belief often enough, and it becomes your new default. The excuses start to shrink. The delay starts to fade. You get faster at getting out of your own head and into action, and that's the goal. Speed to execution. Because ideas don't build momentum, action does. I'm telling you right now, the people who win, whether it's in business, health, relationships, or life in general, aren't the ones with the perfect strategy. They're the ones who can consistently make decisions and follow through. They don't always feel like it. They don't always have more time, but they've trained themselves to say, 5 minutes is enough to start. And when you stack enough of those decisions, you've built a rhythm. A system, a version of yourself that gets better over time, and let's be real. Life doesn't slow down to make room for your dreams. It doesn't pause so you can get caught up. That's why waiting for the perfect time is a trap. The perfect time is now, in the middle of your real, messy life. And 5 minutes is all it takes to prove that to yourself. Again and again. You show yourself that you can lead, that you can start, that you're in charge of what happens next, no matter how far behind you've felt or how long you've been stuck. That's why I don't want you to walk out of here thinking this is just about a hack to clear your inbox faster or cross things off your list. This is about learning to act when it counts. It's about trusting that progress is always available, even in the smallest of moments, especially in the smallest of moments. That's where transformation begins. Because consistency built on small actions becomes unstoppable over time. It becomes momentum. And momentum is what takes you from stuck to thriving, from overwhelmed to focused, from wishing to winning. So from this point on, I want you to stop measuring success by how much you get done in a day. Start measuring it by how often you choose to act, and if all you've got is 5 minutes, good, start there. Because 5 minutes of purpose beats an hour of procrastination every time.